Salutations friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I am reviewing Sudu Te from Perfumology. Now I know this has been out for months and I've had this fragrance for months, but this is a fragrance that I've spent a lot of time wearing and really sitting with because I wanted to give you guys a really in-depth review and discussion on this scent because I think this is a beautiful interpretation of white tea. And if you guys know me and you know my love of tea scents, I really wanted to kind of talk to you guys a little bit about this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a review of this fragrance, the first part of the video. And then the last part of the video, I'm going to have more of a discussion on why I think this is such a successful white tea specific fragrance. So let's get into the video. Transparency, this was sent to me for free to review. Humongous thank you to Perfumology. And I will say one thing that I am a huge fan of Perfumology fragrances. Bliss is one I wear all the time. Clutch is amazing. I've been wanting to do kind of like an overview of the brand, kind of share them all, rank them all, talk to you guys about them. But I really wanted to talk about this scent. So I have a list of the notes here, and this fragrance is actually based off of a trip to Sri Lanka, jasmine, white tea, growing on the mountaintops, a very idealistic vacation, and I think that that's really beautiful, and I think that it translated really successfully to a fragrance. But I want again to go past that kind of creative director blurb and talk about the tea element, because again, if you guys know me, you know I love tea and fragrances. So at the top you have green mango, lychee, mandarin, cinnamon, nutmeg, and clove. Those specific aromatics will be very important. You have at the heart white tea, jasmine, sambac, frangipani, orchids, cardamom, coriander, and at the base we have some Massoia bark, I can't pronounce wood, it's a coconut wood, benzoin, and some sandalwood. Now this fragrance is a beautiful tea fragrance. It really opens up with fruits. It has a nice kind of, I'd say very kind of deep citrusy fruitiness. The mango really pairs with the mandarin. It's not too tutti fruity, but you do kind of get that tropical fruit kind of luxurious transportive vacation feel. It's not fruity, but it has a nice soft sweet fruitiness to it, which I think works really well with the florals. The tea note in here is really nice. It's very refreshing, it's very uplifting, it's very revitalizing, and it pairs really beautifully with these florals. Specifically the jasmine is nice and bright and a little bit creamy. I get a touch of like a little dirty animalic edge from the jasmine, just a little bit, just a smidge. I actually really like that aspect of it. I think it adds a bit authenticity to this being kind of like a transportive fragrance. I really enjoy that. It's not a challenging jasmine. It's nothing that you would turn your nose at. It's just a nice little nuance to this fragrance that I enjoy. And the woods in here are really nice too. The longer you wear this fragrance, you're going to get way more of these aromatics. And these aromatics are kind of more on the conflicting side. And not in a bad way, but if you hear me talk about aromatics, I talk about how sometimes there's some spices that pull cold and some spices that pull warm or hot. So cinnamon is a spice that you smell it and it smells hot, like coriander and basil and cardamom pull cold. And so sometimes you'll have like, say like a vanilla dominant scent. It might have a touch of cinnamon in it, so it smells like a more warm vanilla, kind of resinous, kind of comforting scent. Or you might have more of these like colder aromatics with the vanilla, and so it smells more cooling and a little bit more like enchanting and ethereal, but you still have like a vanilla base. And I love that aromatics can kind of pull the effect or the feeling or the vibe of a fragrance one way or the other. What's really nice with this fragrance is that there's a nice balance between these conflicting warm and cold, so it's really interesting to wear. You kind of feel like you're sweating in the sun and then there's a nice cool breeze on you, and it's really interesting in a way that is playful, it's fun, but it's also very wearable. It doesn't smell like it's challenging, it doesn't smell like it's muddy. Sometimes if there's too many notes in a fragrance, it can smell like muddy, not like it smells like dirt or mud. It just, things get lost. Nothing really gets lost in this fragrance. There's just a lot of spice, there's a lot of liveliness in this fragrance, but again, the tea and the jasmine and the woods in here It's just really, really beautiful, and it's something really just pleasant and attractive, but also very easygoing and effortless on the skin. It's something I've really been enjoying. Now, normally when you're looking at a white tea fragrance, white tea fragrances aren't normally the most present and loud on the skin, but the jasmine and these aromatics and this really kind of beautiful kind of fruitiness that you have in the opening make this something that has a little bit more presence on the skin, a little bit more bones, something that is perfectly perfect for summertime, but you could probably wear maybe early spring or very early fall as well. So I do really enjoy this fragrance. It does have pretty decent longevity. I do get about 6 hours on my skin, and I would say projection is moderate, so it performs really well. At the end of the day, this is a beautiful, slightly tropical, but not like gimmicky tropical scent. It's a very transportive, very easy to wear, but still a very beautiful white tea fragrance. It has some nice nuances in regards to aromatics, fruits and florals and woods that works perfectly well for men and women. And if you're looking for something a little bit different to wear, I think you'll really enjoy it. So that is my basic review of this fragrance. Now let's get into the tea. So every time I want to do this tea video, and I've been talking about this for years, same thing with my rose video, there are new fragrances that come out and I just want to use them as a positive reference, a negative reference. I feel like I have notebooks. I do actually have notebooks on tea. If you don't know, I used to work for Teavana a long time ago, ground floor, back when they actually cared about tea education and the quality of tea, and less about merchandising and just, fruit punch flavored tea. It's a whole other story. I worked at them when there was less than, you could count the stores on my hands. So I have a love and appreciation for tea and a bit of a education on it. It's been a long time. I will say that what I love the most about tea and fragrances is when people capture specific distinctive teas in fragrances and utilize the nuances and the distinctive aspects of those teas in scents. I love the Darjeeling tea in Elephant. I really like how the mate is used in the fragrance with a twist. Clive Christian, the mate, is excellent. I love the specific teas in Kiki, and that was something that I really was just so thrilled with, seeing the different ways that it's processed, from green to oolong to black, and then the specific Keemum black tea and all that different stuff, and how matcha and a whole different thing. I talk about that in the Kiki video. Now, with white tea, if you're unfamiliar with tea, most teas come from specific bush, and how it comes white tea to green tea to oolong tea to black tea, and then you get into like pu'er teas and different teas all over, has to do with how it's processed, and different teas taste a different way on when you harvest the bush, where the tea is grown, growing practices. Is it grown in the shade? Is it grown at a high altitude? There's a variety of different ways that impact a tea's quality and flavor. But with white teas, generally the most common and well-known high-quality white tea is Silver Needle. Now, Silver Needle is like the tippy tip of the tea leaves, and they kind of look like almost like a little stick, little bud, and they're white and they are fuzzy. So that's why they're called Silver Needle. And I actually love to eat raw Silver Needle. I'll just eat them. They taste a little bit bitter. I like to put them in salads, or after I brew a cup of Silver Needle, I like to drink it a lot. I like to eat the tea leaves after. They have a bitterness to them, but they're not bitter in a way that is an unedible bitterness. It is like a flavor profile of a bitterness. And with white teas, they generally don't have a lot of acidity, not a lot of the tannic acids there, so you can't really overbrew it. Generally, depends on the tea leaves and all that kind of stuff. You can and can't. That is a whole other good discussion. And we're not talking about drinking tea, we're talking about tea in fragrances. But when I look to fragrances that have a white tea note and really focus on a tea element at its core, this is a tea fragrance, and it's either going to be a black tea, like an oolong tea, a green tea, a white tea, or a specific tea like a Darjeeling tea, a rooibos tea, although that's, again, an herbal tea. I want to see a distinctive aspect of that tea be the star of the show, not just close your eyes and this smells like a body mist. That's white tea that you would buy at the grocery store. And although those are amazing, and I own a bunch of them because they work really well, when we're talking about artistry and creativity in perfumery, I want to see that ingenuity and creativity and artistry in perfumery. And one thing with white tea is that a lot of people hear about the benefits of white tea when they drink it, and then they drink it and they are just like, ugh. Like it is an acquired taste. I forget, I read Bruce Campbell's book a long time ago, and I forget the name of the book. I forget what he was referencing. He referenced Civil Needle. I forget everything other than he says it tasted like sock water. And if you don't have the palate, or if you don't expect, it doesn't taste like anything but kind of like, it just doesn't have much of a taste. You have to kind of develop a palate for it because it has a slight bitterness to it. It has a taste to it that is definitely all of its own. And a lot of people, when they drink green tea, there's a lot of beauty to green tea. There's a greenness, there's a freshness, there's a robustness, there's a brightness. Unless you're drinking like a really good cup of white tea, or you're drinking something with a little bit of flavor, there's not that in there. But if you really start to develop a palate for white tea, you start to move past the blandness and the bitterness, and you start to pick up those nuances. And it is magical. It is so magical, but it does take some time. And what I love about people utilizing white tea as a note is when they kind of work towards those light, delicate nuances that white tea has, and not have it just be a lighter, fresher version of green tea. And so, like I was saying, when people first start drinking white tea, they think, oh, it's a lighter, fresher version of green tea. It's a completely different flavor profile. It's completely different, like it tastes different. A lot of people don't like it when they have like a regular cup of Silver Needle, no sugar, no nothing in it. They're just like, ugh, what is this? It's kind of like the first time I tried kava. I was like, oh, I think, it's just, it takes a while. And about Sudu Te, I think I've gone off on a crazy tangent, so we're gonna bring it back. About Sudu Te is I love that the aromatics kind of mimic this hot and cold, and it kind of plays tricks on your nose where it adds like a little bit of a fuzziness, a little tiny bit of a fuzziness. And the aromatics in here are very distinctive, can be very conflicting, overpowering notes, like specifically cinnamon. Cinnamon has a way to overpower everything, in sometimes a positive way or sometimes a negative way. But I feel like that all of these specific aromatics are perfectly like just little touches to add just a little bit of something special to work with these florals and these woods. And it just kind of gives you this kind of beautiful tea fragrance that smells like a beautiful, robust, perfectly brewed cup of white tea, and you're just drinking it and you're enjoying it and you love it. And it's not the first time you drank it and you had to develop a taste for it. It's after you've drank it for a while and you learned to enjoy it and appreciate it, and you started to really, really appreciate the nuances and the delicacies that things have. And I think that in Sudu Te, if you really want a really good white tea fragrance that doesn't smell like they're just trying to have a toned down, more lighter version of a green tea fragrance, I think that this is a great version. It doesn't smell like white tea, because to be perfectly honest, you don't want that. You don't want that. It's really not going to smell as nice as you think. But what you want are the nuances. What you want are those little things that are broken down, the brightness of it, the kind of slight greenness. There's a tiny bit of acidity. There's a little bit of bitterness. There's a little bit of fuzziness in there. You want all of those positive aspects of the white tea brought together and amplified in a way that makes it wearable, beautiful, and attractive. You don't want those negative aspects of it. And I think that Sudu Te does it in such a way that also kind of celebrates other beautiful things like tropical fruits and beautiful woods and a gorgeous jasmine in a way where it's really celebrating all of these different notes, but they're not conflicting, they're working together. But it's still a really gorgeous tea fragrance. So it's something I've really been enjoying as somebody who loves tea, because in my mind, this is a fantastic white tea fragrance because I do get a little bit of the nuances of the white tea. I don't think that it is in any way trying to be, again, like a watered down, more lighter, refreshing version of a green tea fragrance. I like how it smells like white tea, but there's other aspects of it that kind of mimic the nuances of white tea, but on their own, they also have their own part to play in the fragrance, and it's really beautiful and it's really special, and I'm really enjoying it. So that is my review of Sudu Te from Perfumology. I know this video was on the longer side, and I knew this video was going to be on the longer side, which is why I wanted the review part to be first. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you had the opportunity to try this fragrance, I would love to know what you guys think, positive or negative. Let me know in the comment section below. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Bye.